I'm John Rodgers from Cuyahoga Falls, and we're going to spend a little time in Colorado. Recall all the usual words about me: cool, colorful, silver, gold, the Rockies, the Colorado Plateau, the backbone of the nation, perhaps a few more. But if your approach is from the east, you're in the last part of the long slant up from the Mississippi River across the Great Plains to the Rocky Mountains. And you're probably not cool, and the landscape is not too colorful. Different, but not colorful. You've noticed that my high plains, my eastern 2/5, are dry and in summer very hot. Surprised? Everyone always said that Colorado means mountains. I'm Colorado, and all of the things you've heard about me are true in one place or another. And yes, my mountains are quite a sight, but my land is much more varied than just mountains. A seldom mentioned part of your United States history. The major portion of me came into the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. People call me the Centennial State or the Silver State. I became a state in 1876, 100 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And in your United States, I rank 8th in area, but only 28th in population. My high plains are the land of grain fields, wide horizons, antelope, and quite a bit of cattle raising. You can travel for miles without seeing a tree or a person. Oh, if you pass one of my stream beds, even if it's dry, you'll see a cottonwood or two. But the horizon really stretches out and gives you a feeling of the open spaces and a sense of freedom. Nothing stands in the way, so the wind becomes something that you remember about my high plains. If you're passing through at the right time of year, you may experience the thrill of bird migration. The sight of a flight of sandhill cranes stays with you for a lifetime. My high mountain area occupies about the same proportion of me as the plains, 2/5. If you like high places, my Rocky Mountains are for you. More than 50 peaks within my borders rise above the 14,000-foot mark. My lowest spot on the Arkansas River is 3,350 feet, and that is my lowest. And the picture you're looking at is one of my highest. Go up on Trail Ridge Road, and that's where we are, in Rocky Mountain National Park, and you'll pass through my timberline and go up into my tundra. In this land, my growing season is short, and my plants are small. It gets no warmer than cool here on my tundra, but the air is very fresh, and the views can be magnificent. You may even see some of my high country animals like the marmot or the pika or Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. On this road, you'll reach 12,183 feet above sea level. If that's not high enough for you, try the road to Mount Evans. You'll cross the 14,000-foot mark, and at one point you can look to the east and see a view of my largest city, Denver. Hear that noise and the terrible clamor? That is the sound of people coming to get rich. Yes, silver and gold have been mined in my mountains, and some of the scars are still with me. And the ghost towns that arose during the rushes for precious metal can still be seen. St. Elmo's, in the center of the state, requires that you play tag with a beautiful little stream as you make your way in through the mountains. And that's St. Elmo's that you're looking at. The freshness of the air and the smell of conifers will charm you. Perhaps a Stella's jay or camp robber, and that's the Clark's nutcracker, will warn of your presence. You may even see the results of an avalanche. Aspen and other trees are handled like matchsticks by the power of huge masses of snow sliding down a mountain. Several great rivers, the Colorado, the Arkansas, and the Rio Grande, get their start high on the flanks of my mountains. If you like sights that you can recall when life seems dull, take a ride on the highway from Ouray to Silverton in September. My aspen will have turned golden, and perhaps a little snow will be spread across my terrain. There'll definitely be a chill in the air. If you can time your visit into these mountains, my San Juans, on a clear day with blue sky, you'll indeed have a memory for the rest of your life. One of my surprises is the highest sand dunes in North America. They stand in my south central area, nestled against my Santa de Cristo Mountains, and are measured in square miles. Their height ranges up to 700 or more feet above the valley floor. You know them as Great Sand Dunes National Monument. And yet another national monument, fluorescent fossil beds, petrified stumps of sequoia are found, and the size is astounding, 13 feet in diameter. That leaves about 1/5 of me on the western side for a high plateau. And the valleys and canyons cut in that plateau are a sight to behold. The Black Canyon of the Gunnison is one of the most dramatic of these cuts. When the mist clears in the morning, you will find your gaze directed downward thousands of feet to the river. If the air is still, you can hear the river, not roaring as if you were by it, but faintly from a long distance. Ride the road on the rim of the canyon in Colorado National Monument. This is out by Grand Junction. And see stone monoliths hundreds of feet high rising from the canyon floor. In all of these canyons, the wildlife and the vegetation are adaptations to the harsh environment. You'll see ancient gnarled specimens of juniper, and some of these make wonderful features on the edge of your pictures. Strange things are found in my arid land. In ages past, dinosaurs lumbered over my swamps and along my slowly flowing streams. And at one time, much of my surface was an inland sea. Traces of these times are here for you to see. Man has established Dinosaur National Monument, where dinosaur bones can be seen still in the rock. Now actually, the dinosaur bones that you can see are in Utah, while the canyon part, this part of the monument, is in my country, that is in Colorado. In my plateau country, especially the southwest part, you can see numerous traces of my early people, the Anasazi, or ancient ones. And man has at least been smart enough to preserve some of the best examples in the Mesa Verde National Park. This one is Cliff Palace. Climb down off the mesa and stand where my people lived, and gaze in wonder at fragile places that have had no inhabitants since 1300 AD. Pause and reflect on those days and let some of the mystery of my great Mesa Verde soak into you. And remember my ancient ones. And if you wait until twilight to head back to your motel or camp, some of my mule deer may put on a show for you. And these actually came out in midday. I even have a man-made feature that you'll find interesting. Your Air Force Academy is located in front of my Rampart Range, facing out on my Great Plains in the area north of Colorado Springs. Most people who come my way consider that it is worth a visit, and this is the chapel. Some people have visited my varied terrain many times, but so rewarding is each visit that I expect to see each one many more times. These are the maroon bells. My variety is so rich and my sights so spectacular that you may find yourself developing a strong tie to me. Don't fight it. I'm worth your time and effort, for I repay you with contentment, joy, serenity, longer life, and a whole lot more. Come to Colorado, capture a memory. Now what we're going to do for the rest of it, this is all Colorado, and we're going to swing across here, and then we won't go back out on the plains again, but we'll make several passes across from east to west. And then we'll take a ride up this road that comes up through here, and we'll take a ride down the road that comes through here. So let's get started. We're out on the high plains now, hot, dry, a lot of irrigation taking place out there. Now this isn't a wonderful picture, but you must have a grain elevator in your pictures of the eastern part of Colorado to do it justice. And you see some cowboys from time to time. Yes, there are a few of them still out there. And they're herding, these are all purebred bulls that are being shipped to different ranches across the country. But this is what this area of Colorado looks like, and this is about the eastern 1/3 of it. A couple of antelope ready to run. That's the fastest land animal in North America. 50 miles an hour for short burst. And you saw sandhill cranes before. This is the fall migration coming back south. This one is a little dark, but if you look closely, right on that horizon, you can see some snow-covered mountains. The first view I ever had of the Rocky Mountains from about 70 miles away. We're at Loveland now, and we're getting closer to those Rocky Mountains. And we'll be going in through Big Thompson Canyon. And Big Thompson Canyon is where a flood happened, oh, maybe 12 years ago, maybe longer than that, and a number of people were killed. And you can see there's only room for the road and the stream. And if the stream is in flood, there's no way to go but up on the sides of the cliff if you can get there. Now we're in Rocky Mountain National Park. Some of the beautiful valleys down below. Then a couple of chipmunks. Chip and Dale, I think these guys are called. We're moving on up. We're at about 9,000 feet now. Seen a little snow. This is the last week in June. Took this one on another year, and this is in September. And the aspen have turned to gold, but they're getting hit by a little snow. And we're pretty much at timberline now. Timberline in this part of the Rockies is somewhere between 10,500 and maybe 11,000 feet. When you get above it, you might see this little guy. Notice his big ears. This is a piker. He's a member of the hare family, and he does not hibernate. He lives there in holes, and so he has to take in food to provide himself with nourishment during the winter. He'll slow down, but he does not hibernate. Some of the tiny little flowers, these are about the size of a dime. This is all tundra now. We're very high. We're at about 12,000 feet now. And no, you don't have to make adjustments to your car to go up to these altitudes. And this is called Trail Ridge Road. And we're now over on the western side of the Rockies, and we're going down into that notch, and that notch is the Continental Divide. Some marsh marigolds on the way in, right by that lake. That is Padre Lake, and that's what you're looking at now. Now, I'm standing on the Continental Divide. I'm looking to the Atlantic drainage. If rain were falling, the rain in front of me would go out through to the Gulf of Mexico. The rain falling behind me would go to the Pacific Ocean. And yes, that's snow. Now, back over on the eastern side, we're going into Bear Lake, and this is a stream coming off of Bear Lake. Boy, I really love these Rocky Mountain streams. They're really great. That is Bear Lake. Bear Lake lies at somewhere between 9,000, maybe 9,500, and you can walk around it. September. A snowstorm in September, early September too. Just one gorgeous place. And one of the reasons I'm so captured by Rocky Mountain National Park, this was our first Western National Park. That forest fire that ravaged this slope took place all the way back in the 30s. And the altitude is such that even this picture that was taken about 20 years ago has not really reforested the slope. Now, my wife and I had been out on the high plains about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours before I took this picture. And we hiked in from Bear Lake into these two lakes. This one is Nymph Lake. And then we went over to Dream Lake. And even though it was baking out on the high plains at Dream Lake, the ice chunks were still floating on the surface of the lake. Then right in front of our campground, I suppose I walked 100 feet from our tent to take this picture. That one is the one called the Camp Robber. He's really a Clark's nutcracker. And he likes shiny things. If you leave, he doesn't distinguish between sterling silver and aluminum foil. If you leave either one of those on your picnic table and he can lift it with his beak, he'll take it back to his nest. If you've never seen a beaver dam, this is a really well-constructed beaver dam. I don't know where the beaver is. He didn't show up. And these are Rocky Mountain bighorns down in one of the meadows. They come down to get the grass. Chasm Falls down in Horseshoe Park, still in Rocky Mountain National Park. And from the first time I was there to the last time I was there, this tremendous rock slide came down in the Horseshoe Park area. Aspen turning to gold. Now we've gone on that line all the way across to the west. Actually, we are in Utah. The Visitor Center of Dinosaur National Monument is in Utah, but I don't really feel right just showing you the canyon country and not showing you at least a few of the dinosaur bones. This is what it looks like over in that part of it. And you can go in and look, and the rangers there can identify all of these bones, what kind of dinosaur they came from. But what they have done is brought them up in high relief, it's called. They leave about a third of the rock on the underside or on the back side of the bones, and then they take all the rock off of the 2/3 that you are seeing, but they leave the bones right where they found them. Look at the size of the ones by his legs. They're tremendous. Now over in Colorado, this is the canyon country, the canyon part of Dinosaur National Monument. Down in there somewhere is the Green River wrapping around that big rock called Steamboat Rock. It's hard to find canyon country too much prettier than that in Colorado at Dinosaur. There's the Green River. And here it's flowing west, and I even have a little sunspot up in the picture here. And now we have gone back to the east, and we're coming across again. We're coming across in a band just west of Denver, and this is going up on Mount Evans. Mount Evans is about 14,400 feet. And you actually drive in your car up through timberline, right on up to about 14,200 feet. You don't go quite to the very top. And in July, that little lake down, a little pond down in there is frozen solid still. But you are thousands of feet now higher than timberline, looking off to the north, and I believe some of those most distant peaks are all the way up in Rocky Mountain National Park. Pretty country. Notice the aspen down there. The picture was taken in September. And at the high altitudes, aspen, I've even taken pictures of aspen in August that have turned to gold in the high country. Out on the plains, there's the edge, and it stretches on off of our picture. That is Denver. I mentioned it early that you could see from Mount Evans over to Denver. We're coming down now. We're seeing trees. We're coming through. We've already come through tree line. But here's what it looked like. I'm taking you back up one slide now, a couple of pictures really. And this is what the trees look like at timberline on Mount Evans. They're really gnarled, and you can see the distinct line now between timberline and the high country. That's early snow in September. We're at about 13,000 feet here. As a matter of fact, when I took these pictures, you were not allowed to go all the way up because of snow and ice. They turned you around at about 13,000 feet. Now we've dropped on off, and we've used I-70 to get on over a little bit further, and we're at Georgetown. Georgetown is an old mining town, but they've done a terrific restoration on the little downtown area, and I am just absolutely amazed that I took that picture with only the one person in it, because usually it's really crowded with shoppers and tourists and so forth there. And to show you how close things are, right up here is I-70, that line across there. Neat town, Georgetown. We've spent a few nights there from time to time. We're going to head on over west on I-70. We'll drop off of it for a couple of things. We're up at Loveland Pass. That's at about 11,000 foot, and that is the Eisenhower Tunnel that we're heading into. These are the areas where all of the ski resorts are. Not all of them, but a lot of ski resorts are here. Lots and lots of ski resorts. This one is very close to Vail. As a matter of fact, I think we're within 2 miles of Vail when I took this. Right smack along the interstate. So if you don't believe any of the interstates have views to see, you should drive out through part of Colorado. I'm not a real interstate driver. I use them, but I really like to get off on the little stuff. Now notice that a lot of these aspen in the last picture and in this picture have already dropped quite a few of their leaves. Looks like all of them in that picture are still on. Now we're dropped off of I-70 to go down and have a look at the Maroon Bells. These are almost as close to the center of Colorado as you can get. They're west of Aspen. And that's a beaver lodge there. We were in the process, my wife and I, of walking around this lake, and you could actually look down in the lake and see rainbow trout, but there was a fisherman there that wasn't able to catch them. And then we saw it one particular time we were there, and it looked like this, just absolutely magnificent. Over at Colorado National Monument, this is outside of Grand Junction, and it's almost into Utah. That's a balancing rock. That's not a real big one. That's probably only about 10 tons, but they don't consider that big out there. Now what you're doing, you're going on a rim drive, sorta, and you're looking down into the canyon. You're looking on beyond that into farmland, followed by the Grand Mesa over there. This plant in the foreground with the gold on it is rabbit bush. You'll find it quite a bit, and it blooms in late August and September. That's one of those 200-foot monoliths, well, maybe more than 200 feet. And the rangers say if those caps get knocked off the tops of them, then like these caps, that that monolith won't last more than about 100 years before it will be eroded all the way down. They have names for all of these things, but I can't remember them. I do remember those are the coke ovens. And this bush in the foreground is sagebrush, and that dark bush in there is juniper. So this is Colorado National Monument. Now when I say National Monument or National Park or National Historic Park or something like that, that's part of the National Park Service. That means that you and I own that. Not Congress, not the President, not even the Secretary of the Interior, the people of the United States. And I wish those people down in Washington would understand that. We've come again for another pass across, and we're down in the Colorado Springs area. We're at Garden of the Gods, and the mountain you see in the background is Pikes Peak. Garden of the Gods is a municipal park of the city of Colorado Springs. And as you'll see in a minute, they have some crazy people there too. Because they do something that I don't think I want to do. They climb these things. But this is all in the Garden of the Gods. That's an old magpie there. That's a western bird with a long tail. Talks quite a bit, like our blue jay or maybe like a crow. Now we're going to move in on a couple of those little specks up on that formation, and they'll be climbers. Now if you want to do that kind of climbing, that's up to you, but I don't. Here he is here. Does that look like fun? Not for me. Heights don't bother me at all, but I don't think I want to be hanging from a rope on the side of a cliff that high. Another balancing rock here. This is a big one. This one would probably go 25 tons, I'm sure. And that was a municipal park of a city, Colorado Springs. And remember, Colorado told us that you might want to look in on the Air Force Academy. And here it is, right in front of the Rampart Range, which is one of the front ranges of the Rockies. Some of the cadets getting ready to eat, in this case. Now, one thing I really don't have a picture that shows, but on this overpass there, right where the red is, it says, "Bring me men." And I always get a chuckle because there's so many women in the academy out there, the Air Force Academy. And here's this one thing says, "Bring me men." Now we're going down to that chapel that you see just beyond there. And this time we'll go into it. It has Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish, if I remember correctly, places of worship within it. Now, before we leave the Air Force Academy, if you go out to this airfield, that's Pikes Peak again in the background, and you're interested in gliders, they do quite a bit of glider work here. I suppose it's part of the training for the cadets. And then we're going up on another mountain. We're going up on Pikes Peak. And this is my wife freezing here in the snow high on Pikes Peak. Now, Pikes Peak is not as high as Mount Evans. Pikes Peak Road is not paved like Mount Evans. And Pikes Peak costs you money, which you don't pay any money to go up Mount Evans. But it's interesting anyhow. It's in a slightly different location on down south. But we were in September, and look at the mountain of snow behind my wife. Almost like a glacier coming down. Terrific views. And these two fellas right in the middle of the picture, they have two vehicles, and they'll park one place and they'll ski down to the other vehicle, and then they'll go back up and get that one, and they are skiing their way down Pikes Peak. We're sort of looking over to the west to that lake now. We've come back through Timberline again, and we're out into where some of that gold was mined. I said gold in the mountains. Well, these are still sort of mountains, but they're over on the western side of the Rockies, of the Great Rocky Mountain chain, and this is Cripple Creek. And then this one is Victor, and this is the hometown of the old reporter Lowell Thomas. And all the mine tailings and everything. Please note those mountains still in the background. They're very close by. Some of the old mining buildings and all still there. A lot of stuff like this around through parts of Colorado. Ghost town type things. There's one other town down there, and I think this is it. I think it's called Gold Field. Not too great a town, frankly. And then we find ourselves at Florissant National Monument, and this is where it was mentioned earlier about the giant sequoia stumps. Sequoias today are only found native over in California. The coastal redwood is one of them, and the big trees in the high country are the other. But some of these stumps are 13 feet across. That's diameter, not circumference. And if you're interested in fossils of plant life, this is a great place to come. They have all kinds of delicate fossils inside the visitor center, besides these stumps outside. And that's South Pass. And I believe I said that that was South Pass. I should have said that that was South Park, because we're out in South Park now. That's defined as a grassland area bordered by forests and gradually rising into mountains. We're out in South Park now looking back at from the west. We're looking at Pikes Peak, which I showed you from Garden of the Gods before. I was on a trip out here one time with one of my brothers, and he says by the time you get home, you're going to have enough pictures of Aspen to last you a lifetime. But I don't think so. I'll probably go back and take some more. This is what South Park looks like. Notice all the grasslands. Oh, you'll find trees interspersed, but normally grassland spreading out. And they call those parks in New Mexico and Colorado. We've come now to Crested Butte. We haven't come to it easily. You have to really want to go to Crested Butte to get there. And the village that we're going to look at is this village up here. This is the old Crested Butte, and it is a town the year round. But that other one that I just showed you up there, all the inhabitants disappear when the skiing season is over. But Crested Butte is a quite nice place, and the mountain is just gorgeous. And there you can see why it's called Crested Butte. The crest like it is on a bird or something of that nature. Great place, neat place. And now we're at Black Canyon of the Gunnison National Monument. You're looking down several thousand feet at the Gunnison River down below, and yes, that is early morning mist. The sun has not burned it off yet, no wind, and so it has not been pushed aside. So sometimes you see it that way. But it's one of the most fantastic gashes, you might say, in the west there. And then this is cut into the Colorado Plateau. The mist is finally lifting. Now you can see the river down below in this view. The reason I say that you can actually hear the river on a clear day is because the river has a number of cascades and even small waterfalls in it. They don't look like that from above because you're seeing them from such a distance. My reason for taking this was the artwork and the cliff across from me. Nature's art. And most of the times that I have been to the Black Canyon, I have seen some deer. These don't look quite as good as those mule deer down at the Mesa Verde. Black Canyon of the Gunnison is fairly easy to reach. It's on one of the principal east-west roads, not the interstate. It's down from the interstate. Okay, now we're going to make another slice across. We're starting down south of Colorado Springs. These are the yuccas, the desert yuccas. I'm from South Carolina, and we used to call them Spanish bayonets down there. And out there's an antelope, a pronghorn. We're moving very quickly back into the mountainous area. We're working our way to these, the great sand dunes. Now you park your car, and if you want to get up on the dunes, you have to go across this area, and sometimes you get your feet wet. I have walked across it with dry sand all the way. I have been, well over my ankle in water to get there. But it's sort of a treat to get over there. And this is my wife standing there waiting for the French Foreign Legion to come over the ridge. They never did while we were there. But notice that there's no vegetation. See, the winds are shifting the sand constantly, and it's very, very difficult for any vegetation to get started on the great sand dunes. Now, from that valley floor where we cross the water to the top of these dunes is usually at least 700 feet. Sometimes if the wind piles it up right, it can get almost to 800, but 700 is more usual. And here the moving sand is probably going to kill that pine unless it starts moving away from it very quickly now. That pine will die. Here's a close-up of that desert yucca. This was a plant very important to the Anasazi, the ancient ones. If you want the best views to get all of those beautiful shaded effects and the sweeps and so forth, and hopefully get a storm cloud background, go over into the campground, and there you can really get these kind of views. The mountains with the snow on them are the Santa de Crista, the Blood of Christ mountains, more or less the southern part of the Rockies. But it does extend all the way down to just north of Santa Fe in New Mexico. I'm still taking all of these from the campground. That beautiful one is from the campground. So if you think you've seen big sand dunes along, say, the Atlantic seaboard, those, the highest one along there is Jockey Ridge in the Outer Banks at 200 feet, and these are 700 feet. A few cactus blooms. Pretty stuff, pretty stuff. And this deer would let me walk almost up to him, but he would not get up. He would not get up, so you'll have to satisfy yourself with a view of his head. We're going up another road. This one will go more or less north and hit the road going over to the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. A name you might be interested in along here, the pass that you go over, which isn't a very high pass, is called Slumgullion Pass. That was some stew that the old miners used to eat. But it is a right pretty area through here, especially with this stream that you're playing tag with. Hard to get away from rocky outcroppings and rocky ledges and walls and so forth in this country. Notice how very small the sagebrush is here. That's because it doesn't get much rain. In other places it will be another variety or another species, and it will have rain, so it will be bigger. We're a little further south now, still moving over from the Great Sand Dunes, and we're at Wolf Creek Pass. And yes, the pictures were taken in September. That's why the aspen is so pretty. We're making our way over towards the Mesa Verde now. We'll go through Durango and over. They were actually running the snowplow up on Wolf Creek Pass itself. It's at about 11,000 feet. When I took this picture, I got out of the car. My brother wanted to be sure that I had set the brake on the car. He didn't want anything happening there. We're over now in the southwest corner of Colorado, and we are already in the Mesa Verde National Park. We're looking back towards the San Juan Mountains, back being to the east here. A little bit of autumn in this picture. These pictures, those two were taken about 15 years apart. And the San Juans today have snow on them. Another couple of those mule deer, I guess. And that's the big one. That is Cliff Palace, Mesa Verde National Park. That black stuff that you see streaking down these cliffs, all they tell you out there is that that's desert varnish. I don't suppose they know any better than we do exactly what it is. But this is Cliff Palace, and you can go down into Cliff Palace. Now, you're not by yourself. They either have rangers stationed at different places, or from time to time they will block it and you will go from start to finish with a ranger. But you are allowed down in Cliff Palace. The circular rooms that you see, those are called keevers. Those are ceremonial rooms. Here's one right in the foreground. And there is looking down into one of the keevers. The big opening there is for the fire, and this is a baffle for the fire to heat, and hopefully the smoke goes out there. This would have been covered with logs and branches and so forth over it. And this little hole here is called the Sipa Poo, and that is the ceremonial connection with the underworld. And the underworld is where they have come from. And so the underworld has a completely different connotation than what America in general uses for it, which is a bad word. Then you have to use ladders to get up out of Cliff Palace, so be sure your legs are in good shape before you go down. And you can see some of the next group that's down there now. And you have parked your car up on the top, up on the green table. Mesa Verde means green table, and that's where your car will be. A few more cactus. I showed you a few cactus before in sand dunes, different color. Now, there are a number of the ruins where, unless you're really good with ropes, or unless you are willing to endure a lot of hiking, very tough hiking, there are a lot of places that you can't get. This is one of them. This is from a viewpoint. This is another one just from a viewpoint. That is said to be the highest tower in any of the ancient ruins in the Mesa Verde. And this one is misnamed. This is Spruce House. This is by the Visitor Center, and there are no spruce that I'm aware of in the Mesa Verde, so this is not named quite properly. And this one, you usually walk over to by yourself, and there are usually rangers there to watch out for it and to answer questions and so forth. This one you really have to climb for. I found out there was a place where with a long lens I could get this shot. This is Balcony House, but this isn't the way you get in it. You get in it from parking on top and going down ladders and coming back up and so forth. So let's have a go at it anyhow. And the way it got its name, this is the balcony that they're talking about. Those are wooden beams or wooden logs, and they have been in place since this was first built. And it has not been inhabited since 1300 AD, and that balcony is still there. And those rangers watch this place like a hawk. They don't want anything to happen to Balcony House. Now, in order to get out of Balcony House and start up this ladder that you see here, you have to get down on your hands and knees and crawl, maybe 20 feet, 25 feet through a tunnel to get out. But it's a neat place. And then towards twilight, the deer start assembling. And then a Mesa Verde sunset. Now we're up in the Four Corners now, and I am taking the picture from Arizona. And those mountains in the background are Colorado. If you come over this side, see, you can stand on a plaque right there and be in all 4 states at the same time. And this is Utah, and this part over here is New Mexico, and of course that's Colorado. And I'm standing, as I said, in Arizona. Now we're going down into the Dolores Valley part. This is up and just to the east of the Four Corners. And we're going to ride a road that they're going to be plowing, snow plowing. But a few beautiful mountains before we start down in this corner of the state. That's a galloping goose. I've seen 2 of them out west. I've never seen one of them traveling, but it rides on rails, and it, I don't know if they're still used or not. Kind of an interesting mode of transportation. I'm going up through Dolores Valley now, and I told you that we would hit snow, and there was a snowplow operator. I would pull off to the side, and he would yell because he wanted me out of the way. But he was going to be there all winter, and I was only going to be there the one time. Pretty stuff. We're heading up to a ski resort called Telluride. I saw the highway was clear at that point. It must have been up towards the pass that he was plowing. I think we've come through the pass now because we're seeing some grass. Yes, and that's Telluride back in there. An expensive ski resort, I might say. We were in the slight off season, so it didn't cost us too much. This is some of the restored town. And that's a marmot. Now this isn't the same fellow that's up at Timberline, but there are several species of them. But this is the closest thing we have to it is a groundhog. Notice that all of those aspen have already dropped their leaves. Now we're on the Arkansas River, and we're heading to the Royal Gorge. The Royal Gorge has a beautiful suspension bridge that goes nowhere. It goes across and then you come back on it. That's the only way. And I'm not sure exactly why somebody ever built it. But down below is the Arkansas River and a railroad. Way down, I might add. And there's the suspension bridge. You can drive across it. Incidentally, this place costs you money to get in. It's fairly expensive. But you can drive across a suspension bridge, or you can walk across. And on the far side, there are picnic grounds, or actually where I'm over at the picnic grounds. You can buy all kinds of things at this place. You can eat there. And one of the things included is that you can go down this incline track on one of those vehicles, let's call them, down to the Arkansas River. And here is the Arkansas River spinning through there, really white water stuff. Now, I don't know whether you can actually see it or not, but right down in where I'm making the little circle is a raft. We don't know if it was that one we saw earlier that morning or not, but it's a raft going through those rapids there. It's sort of an interesting place to go, but it does have a fee on it, and there's so many places in Colorado you can go that belong to the American people. But I'd recommend, I think, going to it once. Okay, now we're going to go on the road from Alamosa, that's down by the Great Sand Dunes, up to Leadville. That's not too far from Georgetown, because this is the area where you will see a number of 14,000-foot peaks. And this, right alongside the road, see, we're traveling on a road there, but if you look at this little road going along here, that's where the old Leadville stage used to run, right in that track. How they ever got through there on a continuing basis without falling into the river, I don't think I'll ever know. Big mountains through here. Big, colorful mountains through here. See, each one of these peaks that you're seeing is over 14,000 feet. I'm pretty sure I didn't put in any that were less than 14,000. And please don't ask me to name them all, I can't. And that's my entry to the Great Clouds contest. And you go down, that's the road that we're going, and you go down these roads and you wonder, how on earth are they ever going to get us through that mountain? And somehow or other you get through. You can get out to Colorado, to this area we're going through right now. You can get out there in about 2.5 days if you want. It's not too difficult. When I'm asked what western state, or where would you go out west first if you were going for the first time, and I usually send people to Colorado. We're at Independence Pass now. Independence Pass goes between Leadville and Aspen, and this is at 11,000 feet, and this is an old ghost town for silver miners. How would you like to swing a pick and so forth at 11,000 feet? Looking for silver. This is these are older pictures, but this place has been preserved now. For a long time there was no protection at all. I'm going through a little part here that I call ghost towns and old mines. This one was for lead and probably silver. I wouldn't know what that particular mine was for back in the Aspen. And then we're swinging into the old ghost town of St. Elmo's. This is the one that I showed you in those opening slides. And this is the little stream that I mentioned that you play tag with to get back into St. Elmo's. Another beaver lodge over there, and this is a beaver dam. That's that same avalanche that you saw a picture of earlier. Just wiped out a whole thicket of aspen. And that snow in the trees had just fallen the night before. But there was no problem getting back into St. Elmo's. And we found out that there are actually, it's considered a ghost town, but we found out that there were a few people actually living there. trying to make a go of it. Maybe they're trying to make a go of it as hermits, I'm not sure. That's about the only way you're going to make it in St. Elmo's, because it's about 18 miles off the beaten track. And not too many people go back in there. We're over in the western part now of Colorado, and I mentioned that we were going on a road down by the San Juan Mountains. We will go from north down. Those last pictures were taken outside of that pass that you see in the background here, and around Ridgeway. And this is the little town of Ouray, nestled in the mountains here. This is just one fantastic road, this Ouray to Silverton to Durango. Especially the road from Ridgeway to Ouray is pretty good too. All the aspen leaves are gone, turned gold and down. And that's the town of Silverton. And Silverton is the northern terminus of that little narrow gauge railroad that you can get from Durango up to Silverton. We've never been on it because you have to have reservations 5, 6, 7 days ahead of time. And we never know where we were going to be at that time. But the train has arrived this particular morning that we were there. And then just a few slides to show you the road is still beautiful from Silverton down to Durango. And this is the old Strata Hotel in Durango, and we have actually spent the night there and went to a melodrama down in the basement of it, which was kind of neat. And right behind it is the switching yards for that little railroad. Colorado, land of high mountains and blue skies. Colorado, mother of great rivers, the Colorado, the Rio Grande, the Arkansas. Colorado, land of varied terrain, high plains, alpine meadows, tundra, red rock. Colorado, home of high plains country and deeply cut canyons. Colorado, land of the Anasazi, the ancient ones. Colorado, collector of the highest sand dunes in North America. Colorado, land of the aspen that turns to gold. Colorado, come, capture a memory.